What is up? What is happening, guys? Welcome into another edition of Around the Bags. I'm Mitch Glessner alongside Thomas Lemanske as always, and today is Tuesday, July 28th, and it's getting pretty hot out. It's around 100 degrees today. It feels good to be in here, but man, we're almost to the month of August, Thomas, and that means school is approaching. That's no fun, but...
Yeah, don't remind me.
Yeah, but I mean, wow, this is our 13th edition. Like I said, I can't believe we're already that far. We've covered a lot of stuff. Last week we covered what was going on after the All-Star break, and we've got a lot of stuff to cover today as the trade deadline approaches on Friday, the 31st, and a lot of teams trying to make their moves. The Royals made a couple big moves, but despite all that, we're going to lead things off with some other stuff. First, let's go through where some teams are sitting right now in the MLB as it stands. And right now, the New York Yankees are extremely hot in the American League East. Alex Rodriguez has been on a tear. They're 8-2 in their last 10. The Yankees lead the division over the Blue Jays by 7 games. The Royals, our hometown guys, are 60-38. That's incredible. I never thought I'd see the day when the Royals were 60-38. That's unbelievable. They're up on the Twins 8 games, so they keep extending that lead. In the AL West, you got the Angels and the Astros. They're dueling it out. The Angels are 55-43. The Astros are 55-45. They're a game back.
It's going to be one of the best division races in baseball right there.
I would have to agree. That division is really heating up. And then we're going to take a look at the National League here. We got the Nationals at 52-45. They're 2 games up on the Mets. Nobody thought the Mets would be in it this long, I don't think.
I didn't.
Yeah, nobody saw that one coming. And then you got the Central with the Cardinals. This is probably the best division in all of baseball, though, right here, with the Cardinals at 64-35. The Pittsburgh Pirates, 57-41. They're 6.5 back. And then you got the Cubs, who have 52 wins. And they're so young. That's an incredible division right now. And then lastly, you got the NL West, and you got the Dodgers leading that one 56-44 over the Giants 55-44, so they lead that by just a half game. So that's where things stand right now. Good for the Royals that they're leading still. I think the Yankees are a huge surprise. What sticks out for you, Thomas?
Well, it's definitely got to be the AL West and the NL West. You know, you got the Los Angeles Dodgers, San Francisco Giants, and the NL West. Those two teams are going to be, in the news, I think, when the trade deadline comes on Friday. And the AL West, I think the Angels already made a trade for Connor Gillespie, and the Astros already made a trade for Scott Kazmir. So that division is going to come down to, the end of the season. So some exciting baseball to watch as the second half of the season goes on.
Yeah, and a lot of things have happened that both you and I both did not predict at all. Like I mentioned, the Mets, the Astros have hung around for, as long as they have, and they're still a tremendous team. And you look at like the Tigers at 48-51, they're 12.5 games back behind the Royals. I don't think anybody would have suspected that. And like we said, the Mets, and just how good the NL Central has been in general. I mean,
it's been
I think
crazy.
we both figured the Cardinals would obviously be, they're always a team to watch, but
right.
that division in general, and then things are getting close out in the NL West. So a lot of good baseball happening. Let's get right to it, though, and we had the Hall of Fame induction for this year. The 2015 Hall of Fame class included Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, John Smoltz, and then Craig Biggio. This was a great Hall of Fame class, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, all 4 of those guys definitely deserve to be there. You got Randy Johnson got the highest percentage of the votes. He got 97. Pedro got 91%. John Smoltz got 82.9, so pretty much 83. And then Craig Biggio got 82.7, so pretty much the same thing as John Smoltz. But man, Randy Johnson, Pedro, and John Smoltz, it's those 3. It's for first year on the ballot, and Craig Biggio is his 3rd. But all those guys, man, those guys tore it up in the MLB. They're really fun to watch. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was a great Hall of Fame class right here. I mean, you got Randy Johnson, who finished with 303 wins. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's only 24 pitchers on that 300 win list. I mean, that's pretty special. So, I mean, obviously deserving 97% there. I mean, he was just a dominant guy, 6'10", throwing 96 to 98 from the left side, and that he kind of had that funky arm slot as well. And then probably goes down as having the best slider of all time, I would probably say. And then, I mean, you got Pedro Martinez, a guy who was a little bit undersized, but yet he still brought heat, and he was just an ultimate competitor. And then you got John Smoltz and Craig Biggio. When I think about them, they just come out to me as, they were ultimate team guys, in my opinion, especially Craig Biggio. I mean, you got the three Bs back in the prime. You got Berkman, Bagwell, and Biggio. And, I mean, Craig Biggio did a lot of great things for the Astros. They won, a World Series and whatnot. I mean, he ended up with over 3,000 hits. So
yeah, I mean, those three guys on the Astros, those guys really are what made that team prevalent. And John Smoltz, he started as a starting pitcher, went to as a closer, which I think he racked. I don't even know how many saves he racked up. He racked up 154 saves as a closer, and then he went back to being a starting pitcher. So, I mean, that dude just dominated every aspect of the game pitching-wise. But, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez definitely should have got the highest percentage of the votes. Pedro, just Boston Red Sox in the postseason just speaks for itself. And Randy Johnson, when I think of Randy Johnson, I just think of him throwing that fastball and hitting that bird.
Hitting the bird, yeah.
The bird just explodes. But, I mean, yeah, all four guys definitely deserving, and it's good to see those guys get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and the Red Sox just retired Pedro Martinez's number as well, 45, for the Red Sox as well. And they were talking a little bit, the Baseball Tonight crew, they're all great. I love listening to what they always have to say. And they were talking about how Pedro, it was some stat they did that it was like relative to the other pitchers in the league at the time, like during his prime, he was a full, 1.5 ERA points better than everybody else.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, those kind of stats, if you're one full ERA less than everybody else, you're doing something right. So, I mean, yeah, that's a crazy stat right there.
Yeah, and then looking ahead here, you got Mike Piazza, who came in with just a shade under 70% with 69.9, and then you got Bagwell with 55.7. Looking ahead to next year, I don't know. I'm thinking I don't think Bagwell makes it next year, but I do. I think next year it's going to be a small class. Griffey will be on it for the first time. Ken Griffey Jr.
Piazza's going to be on it.
I think it'll definitely. I think it's going to be Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza for sure.
Yeah,
and then I think Bagwell's going to climb a little bit. I think he has a chance, but I don't see him really making it. Looking down the list here, you got Clemens at 37%. I mean, Bonds at 36%.
Kurt Schilling at 39%.
Yeah, and you just look at like Bonds especially and Clemens and the whole steroid thing. Me personally being, more of a traditionalist in watching baseball, I don't think they should ever make it. I mean, their numbers were incredible, but if you are linked to steroids in one way or another, I don't think you should be even in really the conversation, honestly.
No, I definitely agree with you, but then that brings up, what's going on with Alex Rodriguez right now. On SportsCenter last night, Alex Rodriguez got voted by the people as, star of the night. Well, before the season even started, New York fans, or at least some of New York fans, were hating on Alex Rodriguez. I was hating on Alex Rodriguez, and, most MLB fans were hating on Alex Rodriguez for, what he did. How he did it. He never failed a drug test in his life. That's the amazing thing. He just got caught with text and just files, I think, on his computer, linking him with biogenesis. But, yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with you that they should not make this the All-Star Game Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens coming up on his 4th year. Barry Bonds on his 4th year. So, you know, the more years they're on that ballot, the more likely they're going to get in the Hall of Fame. But, I guess it remains to be seen. Yeah,
and talking a little bit about Alex Rodriguez, though, I mean, me and you were both a little skeptical about him coming into the year. He's 40 years old. There was a lot of questions about where he was going to play and stuff like that. And A-Rod is always in the past, he hasn't come off really the right way with the media.
Right.
And this year, though, he's just doing. I mean, he's performing exceptionally well on the field. He's accepted that DH role. He's played tremendously. I mean, dude is 40 years old and has 24 home runs right now, and then to share that 1-2 punch. But looking at Hall of Fame wise, I think if you look at it down the road when it's all said and done, if anything, just the way A-Rod has handled the back end of all the steroid stuff, he might be like the first guy linked to steroids that could probably make it in, just because of how well he's handled himself after the fact. And you look at guys in Clemens and Bonds, and they didn't handle that situation well at all, at the back end of their career.
Right. And yeah, I mean, he's handled this situation and the consequences that what he's been through with pure class. I'll give it to him. He's, through all the interviews I've seen him on, he's went out and like, yeah, I made a mistake and I'm going to accept all the consequences for it. So he's definitely handled that, what he's done with class and the repercussions of what he's done. But does it not feel a little fishy about what he's doing right now? All the home runs he's hitting. He just hit 3 home runs in one game. And then the next game on his birthday, it was yesterday, he had another home run, 4 home runs in 2 days. He's hitting as many home runs as he was when he was on steroids, when he was linked with the biogenesis. So I don't know if it's just me, but who knows? He's never failed a drug test in his life, so I can't really be speculating, but something is a little fishy about how many home runs he's been hitting right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to bring up, and I honestly hadn't given that much thought at all, honestly. But when you put it like that, and you look at guys in other professional sports that get caught with something, they usually continue to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, so I don't think it would be out of the question, really, honestly. But I mean, we'll see where it goes. Looking ahead, like we mentioned, I think it next year for sure it'll be Mike Piazza and then Ken Griffey Jr. Other than that, Bagwell, Schilling, we'll see what happens. But for sure, next year will probably be Griffey and Mike Piazza. We'll see what happens. Once again, this 2015 class was really good. All 4 of those guys well deserving. And so we're going to move on here. And like I said to start things off in the show, it's July 28th. And the 31st is the end of the trade deadline. So we've got a lot of things going on right now. And probably the biggest one happened just yesterday. And Troy Tulowitzki makes a big splash going to Toronto.
Yeah, the Blue Jays picked up LaTroy Hawkins, and they also got Tulowitzki. But what the Rockies got, they got Jose Reyes, who's also the starting shortstop on the Blue Jays, and they also got 3 minor league pitchers. They got Miguel Castro, right-handed pitcher, Jeff Hoffman, right-handed pitcher, and Jesus Tinoco, who's also a right-handed pitcher. So, arguably with the Cueto trade, that's a big trade right there. Jose Reyes, I think he has 2 years left on his contract, and Tulowitzki signed, I think, till 2020 right now. So, yeah, that's a big trade. I don't know how it's gonna play out for the Blue Jays. I think it's kind of a trade for next year. How many games back are the Blue Jays right now?
Right now, they're 3 back in the wild card.
Okay, well
they're 8 back in the division.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, they're not. I don't think they're going to be competing for the AL East this year, but definitely for the wild card. So they could definitely make a run at the postseason this year. But it's crazy. They are plus 95 run differential right now, and they instead of trading for a shortstop, I don't know why they're not trading for a pitcher right now, because I feel like a pitcher would help them a lot more than a starting second baseman or shortstop, because Jose Reyes, I mean, he's not just some crappy shortstop. Jose Reyes was, once thought of as the best shortstop in baseball. So, yeah, it's a blockbuster trade. I hope it plays out for both teams.
Yeah, and this was one of those deals where it kind of brought up a lot of questions, really, because like you said, Jose Reyes is a very good shortstop. I mean, right now, before he leaves, he was hitting 285 for the Blue Jays and still has that speed at 16 stolen bases, and he's only been caught twice. But, I mean, you look at Troy Tulowitzki, and now you're bringing in another power bat, and Troy Tulowitzki has probably been, in a lot of people's opinions, for good reason, the best shortstop in in Major League Baseball for the last 5 or 6 years. So I mean,
Right.
the Blue Jays offense right now is just going to be ridiculous. I mean, looking at a lot of guys that have a high average and swinging for a lot of power. I mean, you look at Russell Martin, 14 home runs, Edwin Encarnacion, 19, Josh Donaldson, 24, Jose Bautista, 21, and now you're bringing in Tulowitzki, who has 12 as well, and he's going to play great defense for you as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Tulowitzki's played his whole career with the Rockies, so he's a 5-time All-Star. He finished 5th in the MVP voting in 2009. So, yeah, I mean, this dude has a lot to give. He's been 300 this year, and like you said, his defense is always there. So, yeah, it's a good trade by the Blue Jays. When they're going to try to make a wild card push, just like the Royals did last year, but the Royals have a series with them this coming weekend, which is going to be interesting to see. Cueto versus Tulowitzki. It's going to be really fun to see that.
Yeah, and we'll get into that Cueto talk in just a little bit. But, talking once again about the Rockies real quick, and a lot of reports saying, they dealt Troy Tulowitzki, and now they're saying there's no way that they can keep Carlos Gonzalez. So I think sooner or later, Cargo is going to go as well.
Yeah, they're in a definitely rebuilding stage right now. They're unloading everybody. They just did Tulowitzki, and now they're doing Carlos Gonzalez, arguably the two best players. So, yeah, they're unloading. They're building for the future. So it's going to be a while until they're competitive again, and they know it. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, and we're going to move on here to some other trade talks, and this will bring up a good point. I just thought of this, actually, with Carlos Gonzalez. We're going to move ahead here a little bit, but his name will come up here in a little bit in a sec. Talk about David Price. This is a guy that has been talked about a lot, and, it's his first full year with the Tigers. The Tigers don't want to be sellers on him, but there's a lot of teams really pursuing David Price, and for a very good reason. Dude's dominant. He's got postseason experience, and he's a lefty, obviously. So, I mean, a lot of good things about David Price. I'm really interested to see what happens because I think something big could happen with him for sure. I don't know, maybe the Dodgers, the Giants are pushing hard for him right now. I don't know. He's kind of up in the air. Anything can happen at the trade deadline. But I think David Price is probably going to get dealt.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think they are, David Price has just been dominant this year. He's 9-3 with a 2.31 ERA, and when you talk about an ace, David Price defines the word ace. Just all his stuff. Has a 4-pitch guy, fastball, slider, changeup, curveball. I mean, this dude's just nasty. He has some nasty stuff. But, the Detroit Tigers, like you said, they don't want to be sellers right now. There's no way they're going to win the AL Central this year, and they're 4.5 games out of the wild card as we speak. So, they're on that verge. I think they might play 1 or 2 games this week, and if they lose 1 or 2 of them, you never know. That might be the deciding factor if they're buyers or sellers. So, it's up in the air right now. I believe that David Price will also be dealt. Some teams, the Dodgers and the Giants. Man, if he goes to the Dodgers, wow. Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke, and now David Price. That would be. I don't know. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, and here's
I'm at a loss of words.
Here's where Carlos Gonzalez comes kind of back into the picture for me. I could honestly see the Dodgers trading away Yasiel Puig because he's been talked about. And I was talking to you a little bit earlier today about how I feel like the Dodgers, they've never really been fully committed to Yasiel Puig, in my opinion, because he's always been kind of a liability. He hasn't been 100% healthy the whole way, and I don't think he gets excuse me, I don't think he gets along with Don Mattingly very well. So I could see something happening here in which the Dodgers, pursue Price really hard and maybe throw Yasiel Puig in, and then you look ahead in the future, and then all the Carlos Gonzalez talks, they might fill Yasiel Puig's position with Cargo, like maybe next year or something. So things
Right.
could get crazy for LA, and they could be scary good, obviously, with Greinke, Kershaw. They've been the most dominant pitchers in all of baseball ever since the All-Star break. And then if you threw David Price in there, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, this is when you really, at the trade deadline, this is when you really can tell if a big market from small market. The Royals have actually been very surprising this year. This is the first year in I don't even remember how long that they actually went out and traded. They were buyers instead of sellers. They went and got Cueto and Zobrist. They got Zobrist today, but another guy that could also go to the Giants or the Dodgers is Cole Hamels. Cole Hamels has a big contract. Let me look at his contract. He has a 7-year, $159 million contract. So when teams wanted to trade for him, they got to keep that, in the back of their minds. They got a lot of money coming at you if you were to trade for Cole Hamels. But then again, if you do trade for Cole Hamels, you could try to get the Phillies to pick up some of his contract and send some money your way. But, Cole Hamels hasn't had the numbers that David Price has this year. He's 6-7 with a 3.64 ERA, but the Phillies are arguably the worst team in baseball, and they don't have the offense like the Detroit does. So that could come into play. But man, if the Dodgers, the Giants got one of these two guys, or maybe even both, who knows? You never know. They could be deadly. The Giants with Madison Bumgarner, Matt Cain, and Vogelson. Vogelson's still with the Giants, right? Yeah, he definitely is. But yeah, I mean, it's trade deadline coming on Friday. You never know what happens. These, trade deadline is so important. What the Royals, some of these teams are getting their last piece to make themselves, legit contenders, and you got to get one of these pitchers. You got to get your ace to win a World Series.
Yeah, like we both kind of mentioned, the trade deadline, a lot of crazy stuff can happen. I don't think anybody saw the Tulowitzki deal coming.
I didn't.
And I think right now with Cole Hamels and David Price, for that matter, I think anything could really happen. I mean, Cole Hamels tossed that no-hitter last weekend against the Cubs. That obviously helped his stock tremendously. Looking right here, it says the Astros are even making a big push for Hamels, and I mean they already got we already know what,
they already got Scott Kazmir. They made the trade for him last week, I believe.
Right, we already know what Scott Kazmir and Dallas Keuchel can do, and if they pushed for Cole Hamels, that would be huge. I mean, the Astros certainly are not out of it. They've got a solid team. They've had a solid team all year. So I mean, if they added another arm, I mean, geez, just this trade deadline can get really interesting here as we approach Friday.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of speculation, until the trade deadline comes upon us. But it's really fun to speculate and try to look at what these teams could be if they were to get these really good players.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch, and we're going to transition now. We're kind of mashing up this episode since there's just been so much trade deals and whatnot. We're just going to keep it going here into our Royals talk. We're not going to take a break, and we're just going to talk here. We're going to move now on to the Royals and what the Royals have done, and I think everybody in Kansas City right now is extremely happy. The Royals are sitting at 60-38. That's 8 games ahead of the Twins. Run differential of 75. That's extremely good. Their home record is tremendous at 34-18. And the big deal they make earlier on in the week, they get Johnny Cueto.
Yeah, ooh, man, Johnny Cueto, this is what the Royals were missing. Everybody's talking, their weak suit this year. What has it been? It's been starting pitching. And our best pitcher to date has been Volquez, and I think Volquez has a 3.21 ERA right now. So starting pitching has been our weak suit, and what did the Royals go do? They went out and got Johnny Cueto. Johnny Cueto right now has a 2.62 ERA. So coming in right now, he's 7-6 with the Reds. He'd come in and just already had the lowest ERA on the team. So when we get Johnny Cueto, you already got a guy who can start game 1 and possibly game 5 of a series. And that is what the Royals are missing.
Yeah, and you're talking about a guy that was second in the Cy Young voting last year. I mean, Johnny Cueto's been probably one of the most underrated pitchers, honestly, in baseball. I mean, his numbers last year were ridiculous at 20-9. This year he's just 7-6, but I mean the ERA still speaks for itself at 2.62. And the dude, he eats up a lot of innings. I think he comes in and he pitches as well as he does in Cincinnati, where the ball just flies. We saw that
Right.
at the All-Star game. And he's going to come into Kauffman now, and that's a pitcher's ballpark, obviously. And I think his numbers are just going to get better.
No, I definitely agree. And yeah, you're talking about the Reds. I forgot what their stadium's called, but the Red Stadium, man, the home run derby was just there, and you could tell the balls just fly out of there. That's definitely a hitter's ballpark for sure. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about innings pitched. The dude pitched 243.2 innings last year, which led the MLB. He finished second in the Cy Young last year and was an All-Star. So, I mean, this guy is what the Royals have been looking for. He is a rental player. He's going to be a free agent after this season. So, I don't think the Royals are going to re-sign him after this season. He's going to want James Shields money, maybe even plus more. He's 29 years old, so he's a little younger than James Shields was when he was a free agent. So I think he's going to want a lot of money. That's why I don't think the Royals are going to sign him after the season. But the Royals are in a win now mode, and we know that we might not have Gordon next year. We're not gonna have Rios. Who knows? Some players are coming into arbitration. Moose is coming into arbitration. So I mean, Royals are in a win now mentality, and we did what we had to do. We went out and got Cueto, and actually today, Tuesday, we got Ben Zobrist, and I think that was also a really good addition.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say right now the Royals are shoving all the chips into the middle of the pile. I mean, you look at the Johnny Cueto deal, and I think we can both agree that it's great for the win now mentality. And I think him, and we'll get into Zobrist a little bit more here in just a little bit, but I think him and Zobrist puts us probably as the heavy favorites in the AL. I mean, but you look at the Cueto deal, and there's no question about it that we're going all in. I mean, we give up a guy in Brandon Finnegan who had a tremendous postseason and a 2.96 ERA and 24 relief innings this year. And then you give up a guy in John Lamb, who was our 5th-round pick back in 2008. And this dude has been really good. And
he's been lights out this year.
Yeah, and 17 starts this year, posted 2.67, and that's in AAA. And he's 9-1. And then you throw in Cody Reed as well. These are all lefties. And Cody Reed was playing pretty well as well. So given a lot for sure to get Cueto, it's safe to say that we're going all in. And like you said, it could be hard to keep Johnny Cueto. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep him next year because the guy's legit. And I mean, especially if he does well in the postseason, that only ups his stock.
Yeah, he's going to command more money.
Yeah, in the off season. So it's really safe to say right now that the Royals are definitely all in.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hope he plays well in the postseason because that means the Royals will probably be winning in the postseason if he plays well. But yeah, I mean, this is what the Royals fans have been wanting. This is the Royals' need. Props to Dayton Moore for going out and getting Johnny Cueto. This really puts us over the top. As you said, I think we're the AL favorite right now. I think the Cardinals are still the favorite over any other team just in the MLB, but this definitely helps the Royals.
Yeah, and we briefly mentioned there that we also acquired Ben Zobrist, and this was just announced today.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just recent coming in. Ben Zobrist, you look at a guy who's hitting 268, 6 home runs in 67 games this year. And this is something that jumped out to me in that only 3 other position players have more wins above replacement than Ben Zobrist since 2009.
Yeah, I mean that stat right there. That's a good looking stat if you're a Royals fan and excited about the trade. But yeah, I mean Dayton Moore. I think Dayton Moore gave up a little more in this trade. He gave up Sean Manaea, which I think is the number 2 or number 3 overall prospect for the Royals, and he also gave up Aaron Brooks, who has been mediocre to above average in AAA this year as a reliever. But Ben Zobrist, he's a utility guy. He's gonna play outfield, left field until Gordon comes back, and then he's probably gonna get Omar's position at second base, which I think he should play second base right now instead of and let Dyson and Paulo Orlando platoon in left and right, or I guess left since Rios is picking it up. But this is also a really good addition. Just talking about what he does in second base, Omar Infante's hitting .220 this year,
and he just had his first home run of the whole season last night.
Yeah, first home run. He only has one, but I mean, this guy is a really big upgrade at second base and probably even outfield. Gordon's going to come back mid-September. I actually saw a report last night that he wants to come back a month in advance, but I don't know how accurate that report is. But all in all, this is a good addition by Ben Zobrist. I'm a little bit uneasier compared to the Johnny Cueto trade, but all in all, I think it's a good deal. Sean Manaea in single A plus, he was 1-0 with a 3.66 ERA, and then he got moved up I think a month ago to Double A, Northwest Arkansas, which he's kind of been struggling. He's 0-1, but he also has a 5.14 ERA. So the guy's 23 years old. So he's got a while. He's got a while to develop his game in the minor leagues, but he was, I think, the second or third, like I said, overall prospect for the Royals. And you got to get some to give some to get some, and that's exactly what the Royals did.
Yeah, and another lefty arm in Manaea as well. But yeah, I think getting Ben Zobrist here, I think it's safe to say everybody in Kansas City is extremely happy right now.
Yeah.
What'll be more important, though, is to see how everybody in Kansas City is feeling in November when the playoffs are over, because we've already talked a little bit about Alex Gordon. I don't know if the Royals are going to be able to keep Alex Gordon. Yeah. Ben Zobrist is probably gone. Johnny Cueto is probably gone. So looking ahead into the future then, I mean, you're losing the best left fielder in Alex Gordon possibly, and you're losing a guy in Johnny Cueto who we've already talked about as being one of the most dominant pitchers in all of baseball. I mean, holy cow, they've really gone all in. Everybody's happy right now, but the biggest question is, will everybody be happy in November? And
right.
I think right now, even before all these trades happened, I had the Royals in the World Series. I think as of right now, I'm still going to stick with that, and that they're probably going to play the St. Louis Cardinals. I think the I-70 series it's going, the path is leading right towards that.
The possibility of that happening is
very high
just
right
increased.
Now. Yeah, but I mean, holy cow, you look at just the Royals team in general, and I mean, we're buyers right now at the trade deadline, but ultimately the Royals, and Dayton Moore, we have the reputation of, still being a low market team.
Right.
And looking ahead, it's just going to be really interesting to see how this plays out going into next year, and not only next year, but the years after that, a couple years after that.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about what we did in the trade deadline, we didn't give up our number one of our prospect is Raul Mondesi, who's a shortstop in Double A right now. I think, Double A right now. And we also didn't give up Kyle Zimmer, who is arguably our best pitching prospect right now. So, we still have some good prospects in minor leagues, but we did unload a lot of prospects. John Lamb. Who else? What did I just say? Oh, Sean Manaea, my fault. So, if the Royals don't win the World Series now, how happier is everybody going to be? Not happy at all. Talking about all these guys we unloaded, people are going to realize, wow, we shouldn't have done that. So, I think it's World Series win or bust right now after both these trades. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and looking ahead, before we kind of close things out here in our 13th edition of Around the Bags, let's talk a little bit here real quick, Thomas, moving into the postseason, because I think it's safe to say right now that the Royals will be in the postseason.
Yes, I agree.
So now the question for me becomes, what does our starting rotation look like? And to me, I keep Edison in there at the number 1, and probably Cueto is your 2. And then for me, you probably go after Cueto, Chris Young, and then Ventura as a 4 probably.
Yeah, no, I think you definitely have to put Johnny Cueto in as your number 1. Just what he's done.
That's fair.
What he's done this year, and granted, Edison Volquez, I think he definitely deserves a number 2 overall role. He's the reason why the Royals have done so well this season. He's our only pitcher that has, I think, below a 4 ERA right now. So, my bad, Chris Young does right now, but he hasn't pitched in as many games as Volquez has. So, I mean, getting Cueto, I think that was definitely a must. And having Cueto possibly pitching game 1 and 5 of the World Series, but just the divisional round, the playoffs in general, that helps us a lot. So, I think it's Cueto at 1, Volquez at 2. I think Young could be the number 3, but I mean, I think I'm gonna have to go with Ventura as that's the number 3, just based on what he's done last year in the postseason, and I think he has the potential to be the number 3. I think he doesn't have the potential to be number 2, but if his head's not right, then you got to look at Chris Young being the number 3. But if he's on his game and if his head's right, then I think he should definitely be the number 3.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned there I would put Giordano for me in the 4, and here's the reason why. I would say he just does not have, in my opinion, I don't think he has the mental capacity yet to really step up in a big situation. I mean, we saw what happened last year in the postseason in that wild card game. He kind of scared everybody coming in relief. And then you look at all the problems he's had this year and, early on with all the fights and stuff. I don't think he's mentally ready. I don't think he's mature enough, really,
right,
honestly, for me to be up as high as a 3. I think you need, guys that aren't going to get rattled. And, thinking about it a little bit, I think probably right now he would be my 4, as I mentioned. But I could almost see him moving to the bullpen like he did against the A's, even though that was kind of a science experiment. Obviously, it didn't work out then. I don't know. I could see, if they throw Chris Young in there, you want probably 4 or 5 innings out of him. And then you bring Ventura in, and he could pitch the 5th, 6th, 7th, and then you get, Herrera, Davis, and Holland. So I don't know. He might even end up turning into more of a reliever, especially after they lose Brandon Finnegan.
Right. I mean, I don't know, to do a counter argument for what he did in the postseason when he came in relief. I mean, that was the first time he's ever come in relief that time. So I really don't think that was his fault. I think that was Ned Yost's fault. I'm a firm believer. I think Ned Yost almost blew that wild card game last year, but that's gone and past. That's a different argument. But I think Giordano should be the number 3, and having Young as the number 4, who's already been in the bullpen this year and has came out of the bullpen this year. He's had, the experience of coming out and has the mentality. I mean, he's a veteran. He's a wily veteran. So I think Giordano should definitely be the number 3. He had a good outing. He got sent down to the minors, AAA, last week, but then Jason Vargas tore his ulnar collateral ligament, and he's probably out for the whole season. So then they had the next day they had to call Giordano back into the Royals, and he was on a bus ride to AAA, so he didn't even get to AAA yet. So who knows? Maybe that bus ride to AAA got his mind right. So and he pitched 2 nights ago.
And pitched really well.
Yeah, he Sunday against the Astros, against Dallas Keuchel nonetheless too.
Yeah,
he pitched 7 innings and he only gave up 1 run. So
right. In a game where we had 10 hits, I believe.
Right, and
I think Lorenzo Cain had another home run as well.
Right. So there's some optimism right there. But if he keeps pitching like that against he pitched against Dallas Keuchel, who started in the All-Star game for the AL right now. So if he pitches like that, I definitely believe he should be our number 3 starter this year. But it's a long second half. It's a lot of baseball to still be played, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Whew, so, man, we got a lot of stuff in there. A lot of stuff heating up at the trade deadline as it is outside as well. It's a hot Tuesday here, July 28th. It's probably over 100 degrees outside. But, the Kansas City Royals are also turning up the heat, and we'll see. We'll see where they go moving forward. I think both me and you are very optimistic right now. Mm-hmm. We talked about the negative sides of the trades, but overall, I think it's safe to say that we can both agree that they got more positive than negative in these trades, especially for the winning mentality right now, which is something that the Royals, we're not used to seeing. They don't have that win now mentality, traditionally in the past and whatnot. So we're going to see what happens. I want to see the I-70 series. We're still going to have a decent amount of additions coming out before then, but I think things are getting really interesting right now, and we'll see what happens, as that deadline approaches on Friday. We'll see where Price probably gets dealt. I think he's probably going to move, and then obviously Cole Hamels has been another big name that I think will be on the move as well, but we will see what happens. The Royals are hot. The Cardinals are hot. The Yankees probably might be the hottest team in baseball right now, and the Angels and Astros are very competitive as well. So we're going to see what happens. This has been Around the Bags edition number 13. It's Tuesday, July 28th. I'm Mitch Glessner, alongside Thomas Lemanske as always. Try to stay cool out there as we approach the school year, and we'll see you in a week.